I'm going to be adding NHL legends back to the NHL here in 2024, as I'm going to be going through every single franchise's alumni team, and I'm allowed to choose up to 3 players from that team to add to their current team here in NHL 24, and then we are going to simulate and see what happens in the new NHL. Now, the playoffs are here, the matchups are set, but the NHL legends have to come back. I'm literally just spewing nonsense like Ryan Garcia at the moment. So let's go ahead. We are going to start picking some NHL legends from the franchises to add to their current teams, and we are going to see who takes home the Stanley Cup at the end of every single season. Now, usually when I've done this, I've only added 1 player back to the current franchise's team, and honestly, that's not enough. I mean, some of these franchises have like 4 or 5 guys that deserve to be back in the NHL. Only adding 1, I feel like, was not enough. So I'm allowed to choose up to 3 guys from the alumni team. I can choose less if I want to as well. Starting off with the Anaheim Ducks, I'm going to go Jari Kurri, Scott Niedermayer, and you know what? Screw it. Ryan Miller. Not much of a Anaheim Duck alumni, but he's going to be joining the team. I'm also going to have to change or get rid of a current goalie here. So Dostal, get out of here. There we go. For the Arizona Coyotes, the former team in the NHL, honestly, I'm only going to be adding Shane Doan as he's really their only legend. The Boston Bruins, man, Boston is loaded. We are going to be adding Zdeno Chara, Ray Bourque, Phil Esposito. Where on earth is Bobby Orr? Where is Bobby Orr? I literally have no idea why Bobby Orr is not on the Boston Bruins alumni team. Moving along to the Buffalo Sabres, obviously Dominic Hasek will have to be one. Dale Hawerchuk and Phil Housley can be the 3 guys that will be coming to the current Buffalo Sabres team, which, I mean, they need a lot of help. They definitely need help. Haven't made the playoffs in like 12 years. They've been awful pretty much all 12 years as well. For the Calgary Flames, I will be adding Jerome Iginla, Al McGinnis, and not Phil Housley since I already added him to a different team. Too bad Mika Kiprusoff is not in the game at the moment. You know what? I'm just going to leave it with Iginla and McGinnis to the Calgary Flames, the current Calgary Flames. For Carolina, they are going to get their current coach, Rod Brind'Amour. Also, actually, Ron Francis. Now for the Carolina Hurricanes, they are going to be getting their current captain and Rod Brind'Amour. Also, Cam Ward, and you know what? Screw it, Ron Francis. All 3 of you guys can join the team. Chicago is going to get Chris Chelios, Glenn Hall, and honestly, I think I'm going to go with Dennis Savard to the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I am going to have to trade Peter Mrazek, as you can only have 2 goalies on the roster at any given time. Moving along to the Colorado Avalanche, obviously Patrick Waugh could have been a guy that I chose here, but I think I'm going to save him for the Montreal Canadiens. Instead, I'm going to be adding Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, and you know what? Screw it. We're going to go with Adam Foote as well. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche. Moving along to Columbus, they don't really have much here, so I will be adding, of course, Rick Nash and Scotty Hartnell. Dallas is going to get Ed Belford and Mike Modano to their team. Also, Sergei Zubov, I believe his first name is. But we will be having to get rid of the backup goaltender in Scott Wedgwood. The Red Wings, of course, are going to get Mr. Hockey and Gordie Howe, Nick Lidstrom, and also Stevie Y, the Yzer plan. Welcome to Detroit. Hopefully that can put them over the edge and actually make the playoffs here in NHL 24. Now, obviously, the Edmonton Oilers already have Wayne Gretzky, but we also are going to be adding. Now, obviously, the Oilers are going to get Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, and Paul Coffey to the team. Paul Coffey right now is actually the D coach for the Oilers, and as soon as he joined the team, I swear to God, our defense turned around this season. So that is 3 big assets to the Oilers. For the Florida Panthers, it's going to be Roberto Luongo, Jay Neuendijk, and Jay Bouwmeester. Now for the Florida Panthers, it's going to be Bobby Lou, Neuendijk, and Bouwmeester, all added to the current Florida Panthers roster. As I mean, Florida in real life already has a great team. Now you're adding one of the best goalies of all time in Bobby Lou, and also 2 other great pieces. The LA Kings are going to be adding Luke Robitaille. You know what? Screw it. Jari Kurri can go there as well. And Larry Robinson will be the 3 players added to the Kings. Minnesota is going to be adding Owen Nolan, Nicholas Backstrom, and I guess Jason Pominville. That's not really the greatest 3 legends to add to the team, but I mean, that's pretty much all they got. Minnesota does not have a great track record when it comes to legends. Now the Montreal Canadiens, Maurice Richard, Patrick Waugh, and Jacques Plante, all 3 guys, 2 of them being goalies, are going to be added to the current Montreal team. As Sean Montembeault and Caden Primo, you guys are out of here. Montreal now is a stud defensive team with the best goaltending tandem in the entire league. Now for the Nashville Predators, I don't really know who to add here. Peter Forsberg, not much of a legend for them. UC Saros is literally on the team currently. I guess I'm going to have to go with Barrett Jackman at 85. Also, Jokinen and Mike Fisher all joining the team. The Devils, of course, are going to be adding Martin Brodeur, Scott Niedermayer, and Brendan Shanahan as their 3 players added to the roster. For the Islanders, Dennis Potvin and Billy Smith are going to be added, as well as Pat LaFontaine. The Rangers, I kind of screwed them over by taking Gretzky and Messier away from them with the Oilers, but instead, Brian Leetch, you can join the team, as well as Henrik Lundqvist, the King Baby, and Mike Gartner. Ottawa is going to be adding Marian Hossa, Daniel Alfredson, and Danny Heatley to the team. Philly is going to have Eric Lindros, Chris Pronger, and I believe his name is Bobby Clark. I think he was a part of the Bash Bros in early Philly. I think he was a part of the Broad Street Bullies back in the day. Pittsburgh, of course, is going to be adding Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, and I think I already added Ron Francis to a different team, so I'm not going to add him here. Sergei Gonchar, screw it, can be the 3rd guy. San Jose, I mean, I guess I can add Dan Boyle and Mike Vernon to the roster. St. Louis is going to be adding Brett Hall to the roster, as well as Al McGinnis and Grant Fuhr. St. Louis is going to be adding Brett Hall, Al McGinnis, and Grant Fuhr to the roster. Tampa Bay will be adding Dennis Savard, Martin St. Louis, and Brad Richards, a 90 and an 88, as well as an 89. Toronto is going to finally get the goaltender that they need in Johnny Bower, also adding Matt Sundin and Daryl Sittler to the roster. Vancouver should have gotten Bobby Lou. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to remove Bobby Lou from the Florida Panthers, and instead I will be adding him to the Vancouver Canucks along with the Sedin sisters, as I believe Roberto Luongo deserves to be in a Vancouver jersey. Washington is going to end up adding, I don't even know who to add here. I guess Adam Oates. I don't think I added him to a different team. I might have. Hopefully I haven't. But Mike Green, you can also be there, as well as Bellows. Now for the Washington Capitals, I guess I'm going to have to go with Mike Green, Bellows. And I mean, there's not really too much else to choose from here. I guess I can go with Ranford. I think I already chose Adam Oates to a different roster, so I can't do him again. And finally, for the Winnipeg Jets, I'm going to go with, I guess, Keith Tkachuk. Is that Randy Carlyle? It is Randy Carlyle, the former coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I remember his tenure there. Will be added to the roster of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, before we end it here, I do got to go back to Florida and remove Roberto Luongo from that roster, as instead, I think it's more fitting if he plays on the Vancouver Canucks. So I'm going to have to add Spencer Knight back to the roster, and there we go. So now that we know every single legend that I have added back to the NHL here in NHL 24, we are going to go ahead and simulate 5 full seasons. But before we do that, if you guys do enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on notifications so you don't miss a single live stream or video that I put out. We also have merch. The link is in the description. Go check it out. We have nice hoodies and t-shirts available for you all. And now it is time to simulate and find out who's going to go home with the Stanley Cup. Now, at the end of season number 1, the Detroit Red Wings are going to finish as the best team in the NHL. That's not very surprising, considering they added maybe the best or second best defenseman of all time in Nick Lidstrom to the roster, as well as Gordie Howe. The Boston Bruins won 51 games. New Jersey was up there. Florida, Dallas, Winnipeg, and Buffalo finishing pretty high, finally making the playoffs. They're not going to miss for the 13th season in a row. Now, at the bottom, we have the San Jose Sharks, the Philadelphia Flyers, also Arizona and Minnesota, as well as the Montreal Canadiens. That's kind of shocking in my opinion. I honestly thought Montreal would be a much better team than that. Kirill Kaprizov's going to end up leading the entire NHL in not only goals. Kirill Kaprizov's going to lead the NHL in scoring with 105 points, followed by Maurice Richard, who had 100. Wayne Gretzky only had 98. Mario Lemieux was up there at 96. Jack Hughes had a big season. Robertson, Kucherov, Draisaitl, Mike Modano was up there as well. If we take a look at the goals, Austin Matthews is going to lead with 58, followed by Brett Hull's 56. Lemieux had 54. Kaprizov had 50. Draisaitl 50. A lot of 50-goal scorers. Pat LaFontaine had 43. Luc Robitaille, 42. If we take a look at defensemen here, Paul Coffey's going to lead with 87 points. 2 more than Ray Bourque, who did have a 20-goal season. Dennis Potvin had 83. Chelios, 80. Phil Housley was up there. I did duplicate Scott Niedermayer. My bad on that. Martin Brodeur is going to lead all goalies and wins with 44, followed by Linus Ullmark's 41. Johnny Bower had 40, as well as Dominic Hasek. And on the shutout side, Brodeur is also going to lead with 9, Hellebuck at 7, Glenn Hall 7, and Ville Husso 7. And in our very first playoff run, here are our matchups. A lot of juicy ones, if you ask me. Boston and Florida should be good, as well as the original 6 of Detroit versus Toronto. We have the Battle of Alberta in the West. Let's see who's going to go on and make the Stanley Cup Finals. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the Colorado Avalanche up against the New Jersey Devils. This should be a very interesting matchup. Who's going to take home the Stanley Cup? Martin Brodeur or Joe Sakic? Obviously, Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar are there as well. But regardless, let's see who goes on and wins it all here in season number 1. And in season number 1, the New Jersey Devils are going to end up taking home the Stanley Cup on the back of Martin Brodeur, possibly the greatest goalie of all time. He's returned to the team and immediately has won a Stanley Cup, as they have beaten the Colorado Avalanche in 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. It was good back and forth series, but I mean, New Jersey overall was a much better team. I wouldn't say much better, but they were better. And I mean, that actually fills the holes that they have. This year, it was injuries and goaltending, which costed them, and they got that back with Marty Brodeur. Jack Hughes is the Conn Smythe winner, 14 goals, 29 points. A very good postseason run by him. I'm not surprised. He's a top 5 center in the league today when he's healthy. And there it is, the Stanley Cup about to be raised to the New Jersey Devils for the first time since Martin Brodeur played for their franchise. I guess they're literally nothing without Marty. Regardless, Nico Hischier, the captain, going to come and lift the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career, as the Devils have won it all here in season number 1. Jack Hughes is going to lead the playoffs in goals with 14 and points with 29, followed by Mikko Rantanen's 28. Jesper Bratt also had 28. Makar was up there. McKinnon had a pretty good playoff run. Brendan Shanahan had 24 points in 25 games. Kaprizov is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard will go to Matthews. The Norris to Paul Coffey. Obviously, the Conn Smythe went to Jack Hughes. Martin Brodeur is going to end up winning the Vezina, and Steve Yzerman will end up winning the Selke Trophy, not Alexander Barkov. So we have some competition for the Selke finally in NHL 24. As we move on to season number 2, the Devils, of course, got it done here in year number 1. But who will be the next team to take home Lord Stanley? Now, at the end of season 2, the reigning and defending Stanley Cup champions and the New Jersey Devils are going to be the best team in the regular season, winning 54 games, followed by the Detroit Red Wings, who actually won more games but had the same amount of points. Boston was up there. Florida was very good. Minnesota and Edmonton, who of course does have the greatest player of all time and the future greatest player of all time in one Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid. If we take a look at the bottom, we still have the Flyers. Columbus was down bad. Seattle, Anaheim, and Arizona. Kirill Kaprizov yet again not only is going to lead everybody in goals with 58, but points with 106. He is dominating the simulation right now. Followed by Draisaitl's 103. Breadman had 101. Stevie Y was up there. Mitch Marner had a 100-point season, which is kind of shocking. He's never had that in his career yet. Luke Robitaille had 99. Mario Lemieux was up there with 51 goals and 97 points. Speaking of goals, obviously Kaprizov led the way, followed by Dries 55. Robitaille had 55. Matthews 54. Lemieux had a big season. Brett Hull only had 47. LaFontaine had 47. Cale Makar is going to lead all D-men in scoring with 87 points, followed by Potvins 84, Niedermayer 79, and Robinson 78. Brodeur again. Actually, Brodeur is going to tie in wins alongside Sergei Bobrovsky. They each had 43. And for shutouts, it's going to go to the legend that is Johnny Bower, having 7 on the season, as this is our year number 2 Stanley Cup playoff matchups. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, surprisingly, we have the Buffalo Sabres up against the Vancouver Canucks. Now, Vancouver, of course, has a very good team. They have the Sedin sisters and Bobby Lou. Meanwhile, Buffalo, I believe, has Dominic Hasek in the net. So let's see if they can break the curse. Both teams trying to break a curse, honestly. Vancouver has yet to win a single Stanley Cup in their franchise's history. And finally, the Vancouver Canucks can call themselves Stanley Cup champions for the very first time in their franchise's history, as they go on and defeat the Buffalo Sabres in Game 7 on the road to capture the Stanley Cup. I mean, bringing back Bobby Lou and the Sedin sisters definitely helped them out. Already in real life, they have a very good team. They were like top 5 in the NHL, but now they are Stanley Cup champions for the first time ever in their franchise history. Daniel Sedin's the Conn Smythe winner, 17 goals and 32 points. One half of the Sedin sisters are actually going to somehow win the Conn Smythe. I know for a fact in 2011 that was not the case. That would have went to Bobby Lou, as he pretty much carried them throughout the most of the playoffs, in my opinion. Sedin sisters really fell apart and did not show up, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals. Regardless, here is the new captain, Quinn Hughes, coming to lift it for the first time in his career as the Vancouver Canucks. Yes, Vancouver are Stanley Cup champions. Now, Daniel Sedin would end up leading everybody in scoring for the playoffs with 17 goals and 32 points, followed by Tage Thompson, who had 16 goals and 31 points. Dale Hawerchuk was up there. Quinn Hughes had a good playoff run, as well as Elias Pettersson. Shout out to Jeff Skinner as well, finally getting some playoff games underneath his belt. Also, shout out to Jeff Skinner, finally getting some playoff games under his belt. Kaprizov is pretty much going to dominate all the awards. The Norris would go to Cale Makar. Obviously, the Conn Smythe to Daniel Sedin. Artem Brodeur is going to go back-to-back with the Vezinas, and Yzerman back-to-back with the Selke Trophy. Moving along to season number 3, the Dallas Stars are going to finish as the best team in the regular season, winning 54 games, followed by the Tampa Bay Lightning, who were very good. Colorado's always going to be dangerous. Edmonton was up there with 97 and 99, and the Detroit Red Wings, who went on and I believe did not win the Stanley Cup in season number 1. That was instead the Colorado Avalanche. I think so. Now at the bottom, we pretty much have the same exact team: San Jose, Arizona, Minnesota, and Philadelphia. I don't know how Minnesota's so bad with Kaprizov. I mean, he's been straight dominating this video, and yet somehow they are still one of the worst teams in the entire NHL. Nikita Kucherov is going to go ahead and lead everybody in scoring with 118 points, followed by Jason Robertson's 110. Peter Forsberg was up there with 104, followed by Matthews and Stammer, and also Mikko Rantanen. And shout out to Tyler Seguin, 41 goals and 98 points, outscoring Connor McDavid. Matthews is going to lead everybody in goals with 65, followed by Kucherov's 51, Draisaitl's 49, Robertson at 49, as well as Mario Lemieux, who had 46. Sergei Zubov is going to lead defenseman in scoring with 84 points, followed by Victor Hedman, 79, and Ray Bourque, who had 74. Dominic Hasek is going to dominate for goaltenders and wins with 44. Georgiev was on his tail, 4 behind at 40. And if we take a look at shutouts, Georgiev is going to lead with 9. He might end up stealing the Vezina over one of, if not the greatest goalie in the history of the NHL, and Dominic Hasek. I mean, there's like 3 guys. Brodeur, Hasek, and Patrick Waugh all have a debate for being the best. In my opinion, I do think it's Marty, though. And here we go, yet again, the Stanley Cup playoffs. These are our matchups. Let's see who advances to the Stanley Cup Finals in year number 3, I think we're in. I believe so, at least. I could be wrong, who knows. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the Dallas Stars up against the Red Wings, which should be a very good matchup. Obviously, Mike Modano is going to be facing the Gordie Howe, literally Mr. Hockey. So let's see who's going to go on and take home the Stanley Cup at the end of season number 3. And finally, the Detroit Red Wings are going to go on and take home the Stanley Cup for the first time since 2008. And after a very heartbreaking season in real life, I'm sure Wings fans are happy to see this, as I've brought back Mr. Hockey, Nick Lidstrom, and Stevie Y, and the combination of all 3 is going to result in a Stanley Cup for the Red Wings, an original 6 team, as Patrick Kane, Showtime Patrick Kane, is going to win the Conn Smythe only with 6 goals, but he had 28 points in the playoff run. Bro was literally a dish master, kind of like Shoresy and kind of like Connor McDavid. I mean, McDavid and Shoresy are basically the same exact player. One is a little better of a goal scorer, but regardless, there is the Stanley Cup in Little Caesars Arena, I believe the name is called. We're not in the Joe Louis anymore. Here is the captain, Dylan Larkin, coming to lift the cup for the very first time in his career, as the Detroit Red Wings are back on top of the NHL hockey world. And I guess they're back to winning Stanley Cups as well. Jason Robertson will lead everybody in scoring with 14 goals and 31 points for the playoffs. Mike Modano was very good at 30 points. Patrick Kane, of course, ended up winning the Conn Smythe. Lucas Raymond was very good, as well as Dylan Larkin and Tyler Seguin. Nikita Kucherov is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. The Maurice Richard will go to Matthews again. Victor Hedman is going to win the Norris. Patrick Kane, the Conn Smythe. Stuart Skinner, the Vezina, and the Selke again to Stevie Y. who is now a Stanley Cup champion in the year 2024. The Vancouver Canucks are going to go ahead and have a great regular season, winning 56 games, followed by the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Dallas Stars were good. New Jersey, or actually the Rangers. Toronto, Colorado, Edmonton. Also, the Devils were up there. Vancouver, I believe, won the Stanley Cup in season number 1, so they have a little more to prove here. It's for the taking, the simulation. I mean, New Jersey won in season number 2, Vancouver in season number 2, and then the Red Wings last season. So, I mean, if anybody wants to go back-to-back and claim this video as their own, now is the time to do so. Austin Matthews is going to lead the NHL in goals with 67 and points with 109, followed by Lemieux 106. A lot of people had 100, like Pettersson, Robertson, Kucherov, and Brett Hall. Now, before we take a look at the goals here, I would like to mention that Austin Matthews had 31 power play goals and 48 power play points. Over half his points were on the power play. Regardless, for goals, obviously Matthews going to lead. Draisaitl had 58, Brett Hall 56, Lemieux was up there, as well as Mikko Rantanen, all having 50-goal seasons. Shout out to Daniel Sedin scoring 47 and Connor Bedard scoring 45. Rasmus Dahlin is going to lead all defensemen in scoring. The dude had 23 goals and 79 points, followed by Carlson, who had 76. Quinn Hughes was up there. A lot of the old-timers were not the greatest this season, at least defensively. Alexander Georgiev is going to lead in wins with 44, and for shutouts is going to go to none other than Igor Shesterkin, who had 10. So the young guys really dominated this season in the NHL. And yet again, here we are, year number 4, playoff matchups. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we yet again have the Dallas Stars, but this time they're up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, Dallas last season lost to the Red Wings, I believe, and Tampa Bay picked up Martin St. Louis, who is a big part of this team. Well, big heart of this team. He wasn't really the biggest of players, but that never mattered to him. And the Tampa Bay dynasty will continue as they go on and win another Stanley Cup, this time with the help of Martin St. Louis on their roster. As I mean, already they simulated very well in this game, and in real life, they're a pretty decent team also, as they are going to dominate the Dallas Stars in 5 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. It was not really close, as they are going to go ahead and capture another Stanley Cup. Dennis Savard is the Conn Smythe winner. 9 goals, 23 points for him. A nice mustache. Also, no face scan, which is absolutely pure disrespect by EA Sports. Nonetheless, though, the Stanley Cup will be raised on home ice here in Tampa Bay. There'll be a party unlike any others, as the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be able to raise the Stanley Cup. Here comes Steven Stamkos. Bring him up, baby, for the 3rd time in his career, coming to lift the Stanley Cup, as he's again a Stanley Cup champion, as well as the entire Lightning squad. Mike Modano is going to end up leading everybody in scoring for the playoffs with 27, followed by Jason Robertson, who had 24. Dennis Savard had 23. Zubov, 23. Tyler Seguin was pretty good as well. But the Dallas Stars just could not get it done for the 2nd straight season. Jason Robertson is going to take home the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy, while the Art Ross and Maurice Richard will go to Matthews, the Norris to Quinn Hughes, the Conn Smythe to Savard. Ilya Sorokin's going to win the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Alexander Barkov for actually the very first time in this video. Now, at the end of the 5th and final season, the Edmonton Oilers will go on and be the best team, winning 54 games, followed by the Buffalo Sabres, the Boston Bruins, Vancouver was up there, as well as Winnipeg, who has been relatively quiet this entire simulation. Leon Draisaitl is going to lead everybody in scoring with 110 points, followed by Austin Matthews, who had 108. Brett Hall had 102, and Mikko Rantanen 100. If we take a look at the goals, Matthews is going to dominate with 65. Brett Hall did have 61, so he was not far behind, only 4 goals. Draisaitl had 55. Daniel Sedin had 54. Kaprizov 53. And also 92 points. Dahlin again is going to dominate for defensemen. 24 goals, 78 points, leading in both categories, I believe. Stuart Skinner and Dominic Hasek are going to tie for the most wins by any goaltender with 45. And the fact that I can even say that in the same exact sentence is kind of wild. And if we take a look at the shutouts here, Martin Brodeur is going to dominate with 8. And this is it. This is our 5th and final playoff run of the entire video. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have the matchup that we we all have been waiting for between the Edmonton Oilers and the Buffalo Sabres, back again in the finals, hopefully getting it done this season. Or will the duo of Connor McDavid and Wayne Gretzky get it done in the final season? And sadly, the Buffalo Sabres are going to get the revenge and go on and win the Stanley Cup on the back of maybe the greatest goalie of all time in Dominik Hasek, as they defeat the Edmonton Oilers in, I believe, 6 games in the Stanley Cup Finals to go on and win their first Stanley Cup, I believe, in franchise history. They might actually, no, I think Hasek won with a different team. He didn't win with Buffalo. Am I correct? Can somebody let me know in the comments below if Buffalo has a Stanley Cup in their franchise history? Phil Housley, the Conn Smythe winner, 30 points in the playoff run. Definitely well-deserved for him. So congratulations, as finally Buffalo Sabres fans can watch a Stanley Cup be raised in their home building, as they are no longer the dumpster fire of the NHL. Tage Thompson, the new captain of the team, is going to go on and lift the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career, as in the 5th and final season, the Buffalo Sabres will end up taking it home. Leon Draisaitl is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. Matthews, the Maurice Richard, the Norris to Dahlin. Phil Housley, the Conn Smythe. Dominik Hasek will win the Vezina, and Stevie Y, the Selke Trophy. That is going to do it for this video, boys. I have gone ahead and I've thrown up to 3 legends back on every single franchise in the NHL, and really, parity was at an all-time high, as we had 5 different Stanley Cup winners. We have the Devils, the Canucks, the Red Wings, the Lightning, and then finally the Buffalo Sabres. Overall, it was a very fun video to make. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave some support. I would like to say thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.